Hello, boys and girls. Today we are on lesson 1.3, Estimate Sums, and we're on page 17 in our book, so make sure you have your book open to page 17. Now, boys and girls, before I begin today's lesson, I want to give a reminder about the expectation here. So, your job watching these videos is to learn and try to figure out what it means to estimate sums. This is different than just watching television where we can just kick back and relax. So if something doesn't make sense, I really recommend stopping the video, going back and rewatching it a second time or third time if needed, just so you can understand what we're talking about today. All right? So let's get rolling here on Estimate Sums with lesson 1.3. The essential question here is, how can you use compatible numbers and rounding, let me get that in here, and rounding to estimate sums. Now, we're not going to do too much with compatible numbers, but we will use rounding to estimate our sums. Let's look at Unlock the Problem. The table shows how many dogs went to Pine Lake Dog Park during the summer months. About how many dogs went to the park during June and August? Whenever we see this right here, about how many, we know we need to estimate. And that's what this sentence right down here says. You can estimate to find about how many or about how much. Okay? An estimate is a number close to an exact amount. And here we have our great picture of our dogs. And we look at, what did the question ask? June and August. So we're really paying attention to June and August, not so much July. All right, so the first thing they talk about is using compatible numbers. And really, we won't use compatible numbers at all, okay? What we will do, however, is estimate. So when we look at June, June has 432 dogs. Generally, when we're looking at numbers in the hundreds like this, we're going to round to the nearest hundred. So if June has 432, our first choice is 400, and our second choice, when we're rounding to the nearest hundred, is 500. So we're counting by hundreds. 400, 500. The midpoint is 450, and 432 is roughly in here. 432 is less than 450. 32 is less than 50. So, since 432 is in this area somewhere, we go to this number, 400. Since we're closer to 400, that's the number we'll use as our estimate, 400. All right, let's look at August. August has 489. 489. Well, 89 is more than 50. So 489 is more than 450. So 489 is over here somewhere, meaning it's closer to 500 than it is to 400. So that's our estimate, 500. All right, so we have our two numbers that we rounded for June and August, 400 and 500. The question was, if we come back up here, let me erase just a moment. The question then stated, about how many dogs went to the park during June and August? Well, June was about 400 and August was about 500. So if I write those down, 400 plus 500 is 900. So we ended up with about 900 dogs going to the park in June and August. Okay, about 900. So again, what I do on the video, you should be doing as well and copying it down. Now, questions 1 and 2 deal about compatible numbers, so we're not worried about those in this video. Let's go to the next page. All right, so here we can use place value to round. I've been using number lines, and a lot of you, I think, like the number lines, but I do want to introduce place value to round because for some of you, this will make more sense and it could be easier. Now, if this doesn't make more sense to you, continue using the number line. All right, here we go. First, find the place to which you want to round. Round both numbers to the same place. So if we're rounding one number to the nearest hundred, the other number has to round to the nearest hundred as well. It says the greatest place value of 432 and 489 is hundreds, so we round to the nearest hundred. And I already talked about that a little bit just a moment ago. So step one, rounding 432 to the nearest hundred. Look at the digit to the right of the hundreds place. Okay, so that's going to be right here. Since 3 is less than 5, the digit 4 stays the same, right? So remember, if the tens was in the 50s or higher, we would round up. But it's not. It's lower than 50. It's 30s. So we're going to keep our 432 as 400. Okay. All right. Next, we're going to round 489. Again, we look to the right of the hundreds place, which is going to be right here, that 8. There we go, the 8 tens. Since 8 is greater than 5, the tens, we're looking at the tens, 8 tens is greater than 5 tens, so our 400 increases by 1. And again, when we round to the nearest hundred, we end up with zeros in the tens and the ones column. So 489 is closer to 500 than it is to 400. That's why it goes up to 500. Step 3, we just find the sum of the rounded numbers. 400 plus 500 is 900. All right, so that's using place value. Now, if that doesn't make sense, continue to draw your number line. So we have to answer our final question here. 432 plus 489 is about, remember that's the rounding part, and we said it was 900. So I can write in 900. Try this. Estimate the sum. Using compatible numbers, we're not going to do that. We're going to just round. So we would just round instead. So I'm going to cross this off. 47. I'm going to round that to the nearest 10. So I have two choices. I can either count it as 40, or 10 more than that is 50, and 47 is closer to 50. So that becomes the number I'm going to write over here, 50. And then 23, again, we have two choices. We round it to the nearest 10. First choice is there, 2 tens, that's 20, or 10 more is 30. And 23 is closer to 20. So that's what we'll write in over here, is 20. And we're adding those up. 50 plus 20 is 70. So when we estimate that sum, it is 70. Here we have 304. Now we're in the hundreds, so we're going to round to the nearest hundred. And they did the first one for us, but I do want to look at it. 304, so our first choice is 300. That's why I underlined the 300s. And then 100 more than that is 400. And 304 is very close to 400, or 300, excuse me. So that's why it rounds to 300. And then our next one is 494. So our first choice is 400. 100 more than that is 500. 494 is very close to 500. So that's our estimate for that number. And I'll write in 500. 300 plus 500 is 800. So that's our estimate. All right, one more page, or part of a page. And we're going to cross off this first one. And then on 2, 3, and 4, for share and show, it says use rounding or compatible numbers. We're not going to use compatible numbers to estimate the sum. So just use rounding on share and show on 2 and 3 and 4. So here's how this is going to work, boys and girls. What I'm going to have you do today is pause the video to do 2 and 3 and 4 here on your own. After you've done 2 and 3 and 4 on your own, then resume the video to check your work. If you make any mistakes, fix them, and then you can start your independent assignment. If you made mistakes but you're still not understanding how to do the rounding, come and see me and we can talk through it and hopefully come up with some strategies to help you out. Okay, so the rounding, we definitely need to know how to round. So at this point, go ahead and pause the video, do those 3 questions, number 2 and 3 and 4 on your own. When you're done, resume the video to check your work. All right, boys and girls, I'm assuming you've done the work. Now let's check it out and see how you did. 65, we're going to round to the nearest 10. So our first choice is 60. Our other choice is 70. 65 is right in the middle between the two. And our rule says if it's right in the middle, we round up. So 65 rounds up to 70. With 23, we have two choices. 2 tens is 20. So that's one of our choices. And 10 more is 30. 23 is closer to 20. 70 plus 20 is 90. If you don't have that, please fix it and try to understand how you made your mistake. And if you don't know why it happened or you're still confused, definitely come and see me after your video is all over. Let's check number 3. 421 plus 218. We're in the hundreds here, so we need to round to the hundreds. 421, 400 is our first choice then, and then 100 more is 500. And 421 is closer to 400. 218. 200 is our first choice. Our other choice is 300. And 218 is closer to 200 than it is to 300. So 400 plus 200 is 600. And number 3. Again, hundreds, so we'll round to the nearest hundred. 369, so our first choice is 300. Our other choice is going to be 100 more than that, 400. 369 is closer to 400 than it is to 300. And finally, we have 480. So our first choice, 400. Our other choice is 500. 480 is closer to 500 than it is to 400. So that's our estimate. And 400 plus 500 is 900. So those are the 3 share and show problems, boys and girls. Again, if you have questions, please come and see me so I can help you out and clear up any confusion. If you think you're good to go, you can start on the daily assignment. As always, this is Mr. P, and I'm out.